On my 34th birthday, as the waiter dimmed the lights and everyone leaned in to sing, my sister Clara stood up, lifted the birthday cake with both hands, then tipped it forward. The heavy chocolate layers collapsed onto my brand new navy gown, icing and cream dripping down my arms. Gasps filled the room. Clara threw her head back and laughed. Perfect. Now you look like trash. Everyone stared. My mother patted her hand as if she had just performed a sweet trick. And I smiled, but inside something finally snapped. My name is Francis and I just turned 34. If you had met me on the street, you might have seen a confident woman in a tailored coat, walking briskly with a purpose, maybe a designer bag tucked under her arm. That's the picture most people see. But behind that exterior is a lifetime of silence. Years of being the good one, the responsible sister, the invisible daughter. From as early as I can remember, my mother adored my younger sister Clara. She was the pretty one, the charming one, the child who always needed rescuing. If Clara broke a vase, my mother called it an accident. If I forgot to fold the laundry, it was carelessness. When Clara came home with mediocre grades, she was creative. When I came home with top marks, I was lucky. It didn't matter what I did, the spotlight always swung toward her. Growing up, I learned quickly that my role was to be reliable, invisible, and above all, useful. Clara's problems were always front-page news in our household. Mine were pushed to the back, sometimes not even printed. And so I did what was expected. I studied, I worked, I stayed quiet. But being the reliable one came with its own chains. As adults, Clara stumbled through life, a trail of short-lived jobs, boyfriends who vanished at dawn, and bills she couldn't pay. And every time she fell, guess who picked her up? Me. Francis, the dependable one. Francis, the one who had everything together. The truth is, I built my life brick by brick, without shortcuts. I worked my way up in finance, sacrificing weekends and relationships so I could stand on my own 2 feet. I bought a small apartment near the river with my savings. I paid for my car in cash. I even took Clara off the streets more than once, covering her rent, wiring her emergency money, and pretending not to notice when emergencies turned into designer handbags or last-minute trips. It was easier to just say yes, because deep down I still believed maybe, just maybe, if I gave enough, if I helped enough, they would finally see me. They would finally love me not for what I gave, but for who I was. But love doesn't work that way. And families like mine don't change just because you work harder. This year, when my birthday approached, I told myself things would be different. I had planned, saved, and prepared for something that wasn't just another evening to endure, but a celebration that might finally show them who I had become. I booked a private room at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, a place that took reservations months in advance. I wanted the night to shine, not just for me, but as proof. Proof that I had carved a life worth respecting. Proof that their invisible daughter had turned her silence into success. I spent hours searching for the right dress. After weeks of trying on options, I found it. A fitted navy gown that draped elegantly at the waist, simple yet commanding. The fabric felt like strength woven into silk. It cost more than I'd ever dared spend on myself, but when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the forgotten daughter anymore. I saw Frances, the woman I had built with my own hands. As the date drew near, my friends responded to their invitations with warmth and excitement. My college roommate Ava promised to bring champagne. My coworker Julian offered to give a toast. They were thrilled to celebrate me. My family, on the other hand, responded with their usual indifference. My mother sighed over the phone. A Thursday night? That's a long drive, Francis. I'll see if Clara can make it. And Clara herself? She laughed. That place? Isn't it, like, super expensive? Well, you're paying, so I guess I'll come. Just make sure there's cake. And oh, I'll need something new to wear. Her words stung, but I swallowed them. I told myself it didn't matter. That once they saw the life I had built, maybe things would finally shift. Looking back, I realize how naive I was. I was still chasing something that had never existed. Their approval. Their pride. Their love without conditions. But on the night of my birthday, in that shining restaurant, everything changed. The night of my birthday, I felt like everything was finally aligned. My navy gown hugged me perfectly, my hair cascaded in soft curls, and my makeup made me look polished but not artificial. For once, I looked exactly how I felt inside. A woman who had fought her way up, who had earned this moment. The restaurant staff greeted me warmly. "Happy birthday, Miss Morgan. Your private room is ready. Champagne has been chilled as you requested." I smiled and allowed myself to believe, if only for a moment, that the night might go exactly as I hoped. My friends were the first to arrive. Ava swept me into a hug, her eyes wide. "Francis, you look incredible. Like a woman who finally knows her worth." Julian handed me a small gift bag, teasing, "This is just a preview. The real present is the speech I've prepared. Don't worry, I'll keep it PG." Their laughter and warmth wrapped around me like a safety net. For the first hour, the evening was everything I had dreamed of. We toasted to my promotion, shared stories from college, and celebrated not just my birthday, but the journey it took to get here. But as the clock ticked past 7:30, the other half of my guest list was still missing. My family. I checked my phone, no messages. My smile faltered, but I forced it back. They'll come. They have to come. Finally, at 7:50, the door opened. My mother walked in first, wearing the same floral dress she wore to every semi-formal event. Clara followed, phone in hand, her lips curled in irritation, as though just being there was a burden. "Traffic was terrible," my mother said flatly. "We almost turned back." I rose to greet them, offering hugs they didn't return. The waiter hurried to reset their places as my friends smiled politely. Conversation resumed, but the tone shifted. My friends asked questions, tried to include them, but Clara barely looked up from her phone, giving one-word answers. My mother kept glancing around the room, unimpressed by the chandeliers and artful plating, as though this was all some overblown display. At one point, Julian tried. "So Clara, Francis tells us you've been taking some art classes. That sounds exciting." Clara snorted. "Yeah, exciting doesn't pay the bills." Her words hung in the air like smoke, souring the mood. I swallowed hard and smiled through it. "It's just nice to have hobbies," I said softly, trying to smooth over the sting. Dinner continued in awkward spurts. My friends carried the weight of conversation while my family sat stiffly, making the occasional sharp remark. When the gifts were exchanged, the contrast was unbearable. Ava gave me a framed photo of us from college, carefully restored. Julian gave me a voucher for a weekend getaway. Both thoughtful, personal. Clara slid a small plastic bag across the table. Inside was a candle clearly bought at a discount store, the price tag still attached. "Happy birthday," she said dryly, eyes on her phone. "Thank you," I said quietly, though my cheeks burned. She smirked. "We can't all afford designer crap, right?" The air thickened. My friends exchanged uneasy glances, but I kept my composure. "Not here. Not tonight." Finally, the moment for dessert arrived. The waiter dimmed the lights and rolled in the cake, a towering chocolate creation with golden lettering across the top. "Happy birthday, Francis." A sparkler flickered at the center, drawing the eyes of nearby diners. For a brief second, I felt a flash of pride. This was my night. My moment. Then Clara rose from her chair. She looked at me, eyes narrowed, lips curved into a cruel smile. "You want to be the star tonight?" she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Before I could react, she gripped the cake stand with both hands, lifted it, and tipped it forward. The cake collapsed onto me, heavy sticky layers of chocolate and cream splattering across my gown, my arms, my lap. Gasps filled the room. My friends froze in horror. Clara laughed, her voice sharp as glass. "Perfect. Now you look like trash." The restaurant had gone silent. My mother reached for Clara's hand and patted it, murmuring, "Teenagers, you know how they get." I sat there motionless, cake sliding down my dress, my dignity stripped away in front of everyone I cared about. And in that moment I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because something inside me, something I had buried for 34 years, finally broke free. I walked out of the restaurant in silence, my ruined gown sticking to my skin, chocolate smeared across the silk like battle scars. My friends flanked me protectively, shielding me from the stares of strangers. Ava whispered, "Francis, I'm so sorry. That was unforgivable. Julian was already arguing with the waiter to have the bill handled discreetly, but I heard none of it. My mind was a hollow echo, replaying Clara's laugh over and over. Perfect. Now you look like trash. In the privacy of my apartment, the facade crumbled. I sank into a chair, still wearing the soiled gown, and let the tears finally fall. For 34 years I had bent, softened, and sacrificed in the hope that one day they would see me. But tonight, in front of my friends, my colleagues, a room full of strangers, they had shown me exactly what I meant to them. Nothing. Hours later, after the tears dried and the silence settled heavy around me, I picked up my phone. My hands trembled as I opened social media, dreading what I might find. And there it was. Clara had posted a photo. Me frozen in shock, cake sliding down my dress. The caption read, "When your rich sister finally looks the way she deserves. #cheap #karma. The comments stung like lashes. OMG savage face with tears of joy. She totally had that coming. Bet she cried like a baby. Dozens of laughing emojis, and at the top of the list, my mother's name, leaving a trail of approval. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just humiliation. This was betrayal, public and complete. For a long moment, I stared at the glowing screen, my heart pounding in my chest. Then something shifted inside me. The tears didn't return. Instead, a calm clarity spread through me, steady and sharp like ice water. I opened another app, my banking app, and scrolled through years of transactions. Rent payments for Clara. Emergency transfers. A credit card in her name that I had been paying off every month. Tens of thousands of dollars flowing one way. Always one way. I opened my files, documents, receipts, reminders of every sacrifice I had made. It was all there in black and white. Proof that I had been their safety net, their provider, their silent mule. And for what? To be laughed at. To be mocked in public. To be reduced to trash by the very people who owed me everything. I stood and walked to the mirror, staring at the reflection of the woman in the cake-stained gown. She didn't look broken. She looked awake. "I'm done," I whispered. My voice trembled, but the words felt heavier than stone. I'm done saving them. I'm done chasing their love. I peeled the ruined gown from my skin and hung it in my bathroom. The fabric, once a symbol of hope, was now a monument to betrayal. I left it there, crimson and chocolate-stained, a reminder of the night I finally chose myself. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I made a list. A list of every single way Clara and my mother depended on me. And how easily I could take it all back. The credit card. The rent. The car. The monthly help. By dawn, the decision was made. They thought they had humiliated me. They thought they had broken me. But they had only given me permission to end it all. Tomorrow, the reckoning would begin. The morning after my birthday, my phone lit up before sunrise. Dozens of missed calls. Clara. My mother. Even messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Friends of hers, piling on. "Pick up Francis. We need to talk. You embarrassed us last night walking out like that. How could you do this to your sister?" Do this to her? She had humiliated me in front of an entire restaurant. And yet somehow, in their twisted narrative, I was the villain. I didn't answer. Instead, I made coffee, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop. One by one, I pulled up the records. Bank transfers, rent payments, credit card bills. The numbers stacked on the screen like bricks, each one a reminder of how long I had carried them. By noon, I had called my bank and removed Clara as an authorized user. The card number was changed. Her lifeline cut. Then the landlord. No more rent payments under my name, I told him firmly. If Clara wants to keep the apartment, she'll need to pay herself. Finally, the car. Technically mine, purchased in full, registered in my name, insured by me. Clara had treated it like her toy, parading it around online as if she'd earned it. One call to a towing service was all it took. By the end of the day, the car would be back in my building's garage. Every move I made felt like removing another chain from my wrists. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting. I was in control. At exactly 3 o'clock that afternoon, a sharp knock rattled my apartment door. I opened it to find them. My mother with her disapproving glare, Clara with swollen eyes from crying but still defiant, and my aunt, dragged along as reinforcement. They marched in without waiting for an invitation, voices already raised. "How dare you take Clara's car?" My mother snapped. "She needs that to get to work." "It's not her car," I replied evenly. "It's mine. I bought it, I paid for it, and now I've taken it back." Clara slammed her fists against the back of a chair. "You're destroying my life over a little joke." I laughed then, not because it was funny but because of how absurd it all was. A joke? Humiliating me in public, ruining a dress I worked for months to afford, posting photos online to mock me. Does that sound like a joke to you? Clara's face reddened, but before she could answer, I spread the documents across the table. Stacks of paper, highlighted lines, dollar amounts circled in red. "This," I said, pointing to the first folder, "is every rent payment I've made for you. Over $28,000 in 3 years. I slid another folder forward. "This is the credit card you've been draining, shopping, restaurants, vacations, $14,000. None of it emergencies. All of it covered by me." Finally, I tapped the car registration. "And this is the car you claim as yours. Purchased for $32,000, insured in my name. I've paid every cent." The room went silent. For the first time, Clara looked away. My mother's lips pressed thin, her eyes darting nervously across the papers. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "You've treated me like a walking wallet, not a sister, not a daughter. And when I finally celebrated myself, you repaid me with public humiliation." My mother tried to recover. "Francis, sweetheart, families have ups and downs. You don't punish your own blood over one bad night." I stared at her, unblinking. "This isn't punishment. It's consequences. Actions have them. You should be grateful I didn't press charges for what Clara did in that restaurant." Clara gasped. "Charges? You wouldn't dare." "Try me," I said simply. For the first time in 34 years, I wasn't begging for their approval. I wasn't softening my words, or cushioning the truth. I was free. "You wanted me to look like trash," I told Clara quietly. "But what you really did was strip away the illusion I had been clinging to. That if I gave enough, you'd finally love me. That illusion is gone now. And so is my support." I gathered the documents into a neat stack, stood, and walked to the door. "You can leave now. And when you figure out how to live without me propping you up, maybe then you'll understand what real responsibility looks like." They shuffled out, their outrage hollow now, their threats ringing empty. My mother lingered in the doorway, eyes softer for the first time. "Francis, we never meant to hurt you." I held her gaze. "But you did. Over and over again. And now, I'm done letting it continue." The door shut behind them with a finality that felt like the first breath of my entire life. The days after the confrontation were strangely quiet. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with emergency requests, frantic pleas for money, or guilt-laden voicemails. Instead, it rang with anger. "Clara, you're ruining my life, Francis. Do you know how embarrassing it was when they towed the car? Everyone at dance saw. I'll never forgive you." My mother. "Sweetheart, your sister has bills due. Don't let her and her daughter suffer over a little mistake. Family doesn't abandon family." I listened once, twice, then stopped answering. The silence that followed was almost terrifying, but also liberating. For the first time, I wasn't carrying them. And I realized something. The world didn't end. Their problems didn't become my problems. Life went on. My life finally mine. Weeks passed. Clara raged online, posting vague comments about toxic relatives and betrayal. But eventually, the reality sank in. Without my money, she had to downsize her apartment. Without the car, she had to take the bus to work. And work she finally did. An actual job she couldn't quit after 2 weeks. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she hated it, that she complained constantly. But she kept showing up, because now she had no choice. For the first time in her life, Clara was being forced to stand on her own 2 feet. My mother tried longer to hold on to the old dynamic. She called me weekly, her voice dripping with disapproval. "You know, Clara is struggling without you. She's barely making rent. Don't you think you've made your point? At first, I felt the old guilt rise. But then I would look around my apartment. The bills I had paid with my own money. The savings growing untouched in my account. The peace of knowing my hard work was finally benefiting me. And I would answer calmly, I'm not responsible for Clara's choices anymore, Mom. She is. Over time, even my mother's tone began to change. She started asking me about my work, my friends, my hobbies. Conversations we had never truly had. It wasn't perfect, but it was different. As for me, I rediscovered myself. Without Clara draining me, I took my first real vacation in years. 2 weeks in Italy, wandering cobblestone streets, tasting wines, photographing sunsets. I signed up for a painting class, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for because I was busy fixing someone else's life. I slept deeply for the first time in years. Number 3 a.m. texts about bounced rent checks. No frantic calls about emergencies that turned out to be shopping sprees. I began to feel lighter, stronger, whole. 6 months later, on an ordinary Sunday morning, I received a text from Clara. I got a promotion at work. Not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know. For a long time, I stared at the message, unsure whether it was real. Then slowly I smiled. Later, at a family dinner my mother had begged me to attend, Clara sat across from me, older somehow more grounded. She didn't apologize outright, but when she passed me the bread basket, her eyes lingered on mine. There was something there I had never seen before. Respect. Looking back now, I realize the truth. Sometimes the hardest thing you can do for family is step away. Sometimes love doesn't mean giving more. It means refusing to give when it's destroying you. Clara thought she had broken me when she shoved that cake onto my gown. But in reality, she freed me. That night wasn't my humiliation. It was my awakening. And if you are listening to this, let me ask you, would you have kept giving, hoping they'd finally change? Or would you have walked away like I did? Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't anger. Sometimes the greatest revenge is peace.